Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Beach FM 106.3, and my pleasure to welcome the Waikanae Ward Councilor, Jocelyn Prvanov. Good morning to you, Jocelyn.
Good morning, John. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm fine. I just wonder if you've recovered from the last community board meeting. Very dramatic happenings, of course, and to a certain extent, you were pretty much front and centre in that whole discussion. Have you got anything to add? Do you want to say anything about that situation?
So I suppose it wasn't only the evening that was quite an intense evening for everyone who was there, but also, I suppose, the previous 2 weeks before that.
Yeah.
I'm really pleased to have the support of the Waikanae Community Board and a number of my fellow councillors and other elected members who actually were there on the night to come along and speak to the notice of motion I put forward in terms of a vote of no confidence in Mr. Churchman. Some people might wonder why I continued with that, given that he had resigned during the day. I thought it was important to continue with that, and so I did.
And so, as you say, you certainly received support also from a former councillor, and Penny Gaylor, who I believe submitted
yes.
on your behalf.
Yes, that's actually very true. Yes, so she's now the regional councillor, and I think she had some very good reasons why she wanted to speak on behalf of herself as well. She had to leave early, but she provided a statement that was read out on the evening. I have to say there's been a number of members of the community who've come forward and supported promotion as well. So I suppose moving on from that, there is now a vacancy on the Waikanae Community Board, and so that process has already started. And so if you go to the KCDC website, there are I think there's a nomination time frame. I think it's about a month. With all the information that is needed for a person to actually put their name forward. And I think, I can't remember the exact details, but I think voting is sometime in November. So, yeah.
Okay. Look, I'll look that up and we'll put in our community notices
yes.
and let people know about that. Jocelyn, one of the other things that came up at that meeting, I believe, was some discussion about the proposed Summerset development close to Ferndale. Many of the occupiers had bought into a beautiful subdivision, eco-subdivision, etc. They are rather disturbed about having a large number of trucks trundling up and down a relatively small driveway for 2 or 3 years. What's your view on that development?
So basically, the Summerset development proposal is to extend from Park Road all the way up the side of the new expressway on the eastern side to Ferndale. And the idea is to have an entrance in off Park Road and then to have an exit off Ferndale. And I think the idea is the plan is to have it developed in 2 stages, and the second stage would be bringing all the contractors through Ferndale. And I don't know if you've been into Ferndale, but it's it's a very quiet,
yep, I have.
quite
it's
narrow
lovely.
Street. And so I suppose there's obviously 2 groups of people who are very concerned about what potentially could be happening in their neighbourhood. And I suppose there's the construction and there's also the long-term effects. And at this stage, the application has information that's outstanding on it. And so no decision has been made on whether it's going to be notified by any degree, whether it's publicly notified or partially. And no doubt that will come out. But it was actually really interesting on the night at the community board meeting that the developer of Ferndale spoke, and he said that there were, I can't remember now, 50 or 60 houses in Ferndale, and it took 2.5 years for that to go through the consenting process. And I think even though these 20 working days upon which council staff have to process it, it will be a lot longer than that. And I suppose one of the concerns is the amount of traffic, where staff are going to park, and issues like that. And I have to say, just this last week or so, another subdivision has been approved, and this is actually 42 Narara Road, which is where Little's nursery was.
Oh, yes.
And, yeah, so they have actually just been issued an approval for 52 additional lots in there. And so all these things add up to, changing the whole feeling and activities in those areas too, because there's another one a bit further down Narara Road. And I suppose if you actually, I've looked online, and so that application was lodged in October 2014. It is now 2020. So it just shows you how long sometimes these processes can actually take.
But that is little comfort to the people in Ferndale, because it's just postponing what they consider to be undesirable amount of noise and diesel fumes and disruption to their lives. So the fact that it may take longer to get there doesn't really ameliorate the issue, does it?
Well, so I suppose what I'm saying is that during that time, there's a lot of conversations that are going on about how you can mitigate some of those effects. And at the end of the day, I suppose a development company puts in, what they want, and obviously, more often than not, it gets pulled back. And I suppose that the time it will take to the process will actually provide certainty for a lot of people, but it's a case of, hopefully council staff and the developers can look at other ways of actually, maybe access into there,
yes,
about how they manage some of these things too. So I suppose part of the message is too, I'd like to think that there'd be a lot of opportunity for affected residents and other people to have an input into that.
Right.
And also that it's not actually going to happen, that any decision's not going to be made in,
right,
a very short time frame. So maybe some people think they'd rather have certainty, but I think, yeah. So
yes, I understand. Is your understanding that it's possible to have another access into the Summerset development area?
Well, a number of people have made comment to me about, and I'm not sure how safe it would be, and it's, it is at the corner of basically where the intersection of Te Moana Road is and the expressway.
Yes. I
think there might be some access in through there, but that would have to be looked into.
Right. And let's just tease this out. If that was the case, would the Summerset developers have to pay for that road access? You can understand how they'd want to do it as cheaply as possible, wouldn't you? Because if there's not the alternative access, the implication is that all of the traffic from the Summerset development, when it is the Summerset Village, will be going through Ferndale.
So that sort of those sorts of thoughts and decisions would come out during the whole process.
Yes.
And often with these consents, there's a lot of conditions or controls put on them. So all that would come out over the course of working through the application.
Right. Okay, well, interesting times, and it's great to see the development, and actually the kind of discussions that we've just had are going to be more common in Waikanae, because that is where the future development of the Kapiti Coast is. That's where the land is, and this lovely village that we all love of Waikanae has got to realise that it's growing up, and that things will never be quite the same as once they were.
Yeah, so there's going to be about 300 units, I think, in Summerset, and there's another 52 along the road there, and then there's more in Narara. So it actually will change.
Yep.
And, the infrastructure, there's a whole lot of things that, really need to be taken in consideration here. Certainly.
Well, it's good you're on the job. Jocelyn, thank you very much for joining us this morning here on Beach FM.
Have a nice day.
106.3 Beach FM.